So we'll chant the pranam mantra of the Acharya. I hope all of you have memorized this. This mantra is really powerful. When we don't know what to do in life, this mantra shows the path. Can you please repeat with me? Namo Vishnupadaya Krishnapristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. This is the pranam mantra of Srila Prabhupada. Now we'll begin our Jaya Radhamana. Would anybody like to lead the kirtan today? Anyone try? Okay, maybe next class. Somebody should be ready to lead. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jan Vallabh Girivardhari Gopi Jan Vallabh Yashodanandan Brajan Ranjan Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tiravanchari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Ram Ram So Rup Goswami, in one of his verses, he says that it is very difficult for me to understand how much sweetness, how much infinite sweetness is there in this word Krishna. He's praying that I wish I had unlimited mouths, unlimited tongues and unlimited ears, so that while chanting Krishna, I could taste its full sweetness. One of the parameters of good chanting is that if after chanting our rounds, if we feel like chanting more, that means we are on a good track. And we should feel this every day. Try to feel it every day. But if it doesn't come to us right now, don't worry. It takes time. For me, it took a lot of time. It is still taking time. I'm still stuck. I'm also struggling in my japa. All of us are struggling in our japa. So, don't worry. If while chanting your mind wanders here and there, bring it back. His Grace Gurujan Prabhu always says that if you can hear one Hare Krishna Mahamantra properly, you are very fortunate. So we'll keep the goal simple and we'll try to chant consciously, attentively, and we'll try to hear what we chant. Okay? Welcome to today's session, and today's topic is called Substance and Shadow. Primarily, today's session is based on the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. How many of you have ever gone through the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita? 15th, chapter 1-5. How many shlokas are there in that chapter? 20, yeah. It is one of the shortest chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. And another speciality of this 15th chapter is that it is a monologue. Only Krishna is speaking. Arjuna is not speaking in this chapter. So like this is one of the shortest and one of the most powerful chapters. This chapter is called as Purushottam Yoga or Purushottam Yoga, and we are trying to cover some important concepts from this chapter which will help us in our daily sadhana and in our daily application of Bhagavad Gita in our lives. This session is dedicated to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is my spiritual grandfather, and he is the founder Acharya for the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. How many of you saw the picture which I had sent for this session in WhatsApp? Yeah, it was some kind of a tree.
Banyan tree.
Banyan tree. Did you open and see this banyan tree? What is there in this banyan tree? Can someone tell me?
The upper side is the Vaikuntha and there is a reflect in the opposite
Upper side is
Vaikuntha
okay.
and down the roots and opposite of that is the what I say that full opposite here type comes.
Okay. Everything is opposite. Okay. Any other thoughts after just seeing the picture? This picture is itself the entire session today. Nothing more to add. If you can understand this, you can just go and have present. What can you see on the tree?
Various sensory desires.
Various sensory desires. Like
Twigs. The
twigs are the
sense of objects.
twigs are the sense objects. Very good. How did you know this?
Today I read.
You read it.
When you send this, I just.
Very good. Very good. You will be able to understand today's session better. Twigs are the sense objects. Okay. Anything else?
There is some the roots and the branches. You don't know where it starts, where it begins.
Where it starts, where it begins, nobody knows. It goes up and down. Do you see religiosity here?
Yes.
Do you see economic development here?
Yes.
Do you see sense gratification here?
Yes.
Do you see liberation here?
Yes.
All a part of the material world. Dharma, Artha, Kam, and Moksha. These are the things which the Vedas they offer. But there is something beyond Dharma, Artha, Kam, and Moksha. That is what we are going to discuss today. So this tree is very, very nice. We are all entangled in this tree of the material world. So agenda for today is material world. We are trying to understand this banyan tree, which is the material world, and how this banyan tree is a reflection, how we can cut down this tree of illusion, and how can we find the real tree where the actual things they exist. So the agenda is simple, the content may be a little technical, just relax, don't try to get into the technicalities. Please take away the conclusions of each technical point which is being discussed. So material world is a reflected banyan tree. This is the first shloka. Who can recite it, this first shloka? Who can try to do that? Even if it is a little bit not in the meter or one few words here and there, that's okay. But whosoever recites will get special Pandharpur Prasad Laddu from me. Who will recite this? Please raise your hand before reciting. No, I don't have so many laddus. Please. Who wants, you raised your hand first. Please try. You forgot Sri Bhagwan also. Okay. Okay. Very good. Yes. Very good. Would someone else like to try? Yes.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha Urdhvamoolamatarshakham Ashwattvam Prahuravyam Chandansi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedare.
Yeah. She has flaunted her heroic nature in front of us. We accept Mataji. Anybody else wants to chant? Yes, Prabhu. Why don't you chant? Thank you. So we have 3 different meters. One is Naina Mataji meter, one is Madhavi Mataji meter, and one is Ramesh Prabhu meter. Which to follow, I don't know. You choose whichever one you want. We'll come to the translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "It is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upwards and its branches downwards, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas." So you'll see in this whole chapter, Krishna is talking very symbolically. He's not talking straight. Krishna is a person who likes parokshavad. What is parokshavad? Indirect speech. Because the reason is, Krishna reserves the right to not be visible to the atheists, demonic people, and people who don't have faith in him. He reserves the right. So therefore, if somebody goes and studies all the Upanishads, not even once the name Krishna is there. Especially if you take Ishopanishad. This is the Upanishad which many people, both the Mayavadis and the Vaishnavas and everybody studies. But in all of these shlokas directly, although it is talking about Krishna, but it always uses words like he, him, his. It does not name directly. So Parokshavad is very common. I think the Prasadam guy is calling, can you take a call? So in this chapter also, he will not specifically talk things. He is talking very symbolically, and he has left it for the acharyas to explain it. And then there are 2 kinds of people. One are the saints, and the other category is the swindlers. So swindlers will explain it the way they want. They are called Mayavadis. Sabka dukaan chalna chahiye. And the others is the actual people who are in the parampara, who have understood the way Arjuna understood, and they have tried to explain it as it is. So this is Bhagavad Gita chapter 15.1. So to understand this, Krishna is using a term, a concept called Nyaya. In Sanskrit, the word Nyaya means a category of logic. For example, there is one Nyaya called Shakha Chandra Nyaya. How many of you know that? Do you have any Shakha Chandra Nyaya? The Shakha Chandra Nyaya is trying to, spiritual concepts cannot be explained with material examples. But in order to help one get some idea about them, they use material examples. I will use a material example to explain Shakha Chandra Nyaya. So a small child is asking the mother, where is the moon? Mother or the father, doesn't matter. And the parent says that, do you see that tree? The child says yes. Do you see those 2 branches? Yes. Do you see the golden object between those 2 branches? The child says yes. So the father says, that is the moon. Now, does it mean that the moon is between those 2 branches? But those 2 branches have been made use of to explain where the moon is to someone who is a child. So this kind of explanation is called Shakha Chandra Nyaya. So taking example of things which we have idea about or which we can understand, and using those examples as a foundation or a fundamental to explain things which are much higher. This is called Shakha Chandra Nyaya. There is something called as Ardha Kukuti Nyaya. Do you know it? So Kukuti means hen, and Ardh means half hen. The half hen logic, who knows half hen logic? All of you know actually. You just don't know that you don't know. Okay. How many of you have heard that story, hen laying golden egg? Hen laying golden egg? Yes. Can someone tell that story to me? Someone who has not spoken till now? Hen laying golden egg. Who wants to say, please? Nobody. Nobody has seen a hen who has laid a golden egg. Come on. Half your life is waste if you have not seen a hen.
There was a person who had a hen which used to
There was a
lay
person who had a hen, okay,
hen who used to lay golden egg every day.
every day, okay.
So somebody advised him, or he thought she might have lots of hen might have lots of egg. Why don't you cut that hen and get all the gold
At once.
at once?
Okay,
So that's I think the story about, and he didn't get after that.
after that, okay. Very good. Any other angle or any other version of this story? Okay. So this story,
This is actually greed. This story talks about.
no, in terms of Nyaya, I'm trying to explain. So, what was the name of that person who had the hen? Let's give him a name. What name should we give? What is your name?
He was a farmer having poultry farm.
Okay, poultry farm. Okay,
That was written in the story.
okay. But what is your son's name? Aditya. Let's say that person's name was Aditya. So Aditya thought actually that this hen has two parts. The part from where it lays the eggs and the part from where it eats. So the part from where it lays the eggs is benefiting me. But the part from where it eats is very expensive. Why don't I just chop off the part which is costing me money and keep the part which I just use or which is benefiting me? This is called Ardha Kukuti Nyaya. One who worships Lord Chaitanya but not worships Lord Nityananda is doing this Ardha Kukuti Nyaya. He's trying to cut off the hen's head and trying to get the golden egg. So this is how in Chaitanya Charitamrita it has been explained. From there I learned this analogy. Okay, moving on. So Shakchandra Nyaya is the kind of Nyaya which Krishna is using in this chapter to explain so many things. So the banyan tree here is the material world. It is imperishable. What is the concept of imperishability here is that the material world is the energy of Krishna. So it is not like the Mayavadis say. The Mayavadis have a very famous statement, Brahman Satya Jagat Mithya. How many of you have heard this? Brahman Satya Jagat Mithya. So this is a wrong statement. Brahman is an energy of Krishna. This material world is an energy of Krishna. How can one energy of Krishna be Satya and another energy be false? All the energies of Krishna are imperishable. So that's what Krishna is trying to hint by saying this banyan tree or this material world is imperishable. What is the difference between spiritual world and material world? If both are energies of Krishna, then what is the difference? Is the material world, what do you say, real? How many of you say yes? Please raise your hands. How many of you say no? Please raise your hands. You see, some people are not raising hand for both. What does it mean?
It's easy for some people and unreal for some people.
Wow. This is also a nyaya, you know.
No, real in its own sense.
It's Krishna's material energy has to be real.
Yeah. This is the correct answer. Material world is real. It's not mithya. I just told. There's
It should
no.
be utilized the way it is made for.
Yeah. So the question is material world real or false? Real. So this was the simple question. So the Mayavadis will say everything is false. You know, this table is false. This mic is false. You know, this body is false. You are false. This relationship is false.
Means it is not permanent.
Yes. No. Falsity and eternality cannot be equated. It is real. It is temporary. That is a different concept. The cloud is there, but it is there only for some time. That does not mean that the cloud is false. So this material energy of the Lord comes into existence and then goes into annihilation, existence, annihilation, creation, annihilation, keeps happening. But that does not mean that this is false. It is real. Okay, so this is the difference between spiritual world and material world. Spiritual world is eternal. It is never annihilated. But material world keeps getting annihilated. This, yes?
One point that
Yes,
So for this Brahma Satya, Jagan Mithya, whatever it is, Mithya doesn't mean it is false, but I don't know the right word for it.
the Sanskrit Sabdkosh says Mithya means false.
Yeah, so what they say is, the material world is in such a way that it doesn't tell you the existence of Supreme Lord directly, hence it is called Mithya. But you have to do some sadhana to discover the Bhagavan through the material world, hence it is called Mithya. But it doesn't say it is false. That is what I read.
Okay. That's accepted. It doesn't oppose the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, so we accept it. But the dictionary meaning of the word Mithya is false. Please speak Satya. Please, he's not speaking Satya, he's speaking Mithya, means false. That's what they say. So one who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. It has its roots upward and its branches downwards, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. So we'll try to understand this just one statement in detail. We'll also go through the second verse, what Krishna is saying. High level of symbolism. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. The tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of the human society. Imagine if there was no purport to these verses, who could have ever made sense out of these things? 10 minds, 10 different interpretations. Which one is correct? That is why it is very important to read the Bhagavad Gita, which comes in a chain of disciplic succession. Because this is endless. The way Krishna is speaking here, it's endless. You can go on speculating for billions of lifetimes. The third and the fourth verse says, the real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. So here Krishna has given a hint that if somebody tries to mentally speculate about the nature of this material world, which has no beginning, no end, and nobody can figure out where its foundation is, if they do not take this knowledge from the Shastra or from the Guru Shishya Parampara, then they will be simply bewildered in their process of analysis. They will go into analysis paralysis, basically. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Therefore, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. I have a question. Why is Krishna using the word Supreme Personality of Godhead, and why not saying surrender to me only directly? One should find out the place from where, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to me, from whom everything began and from whom everything extends since time. Why is he not using the word me, but using the word Bhagwan or Supreme Personality of Godhead?
He's telling it to Arjuna.
Indirect, okay? He's telling it.
Saying it to Arjuna.
Uh-huh.
Saying that super God is there.
But that person is he only, no? Why should I say that you should come to the Gita class and ask your doubts from Achyut Arjun Sakha Das, and then whatever Achyut Arjun Sakha Das says, try to note it down and try to understand, and if you have any questions, please ask us Achyut Arjun Sakha Das. Why will I talk like this?
Can you listen to you?
Because he has left it to the disciple to understand. Rather than say that.
Okay, I will answer this question towards the end of the session.
I have another question.
You have another question?
There is, he says that cut down the strongly rooted tree. But in the image we talked about, the roots are with God and only the branches and
I will explain. Just hang on. So, I have divided the first statement, first two verses, into 6 discussions which we will have today. So, there are 6 analogies used here. Reflection of the spiritual world is one analogy. Tips, leaves, and twigs is another analogy. Branches going upward and downward is another analogy. Subroots, extra roots, another analogy. Cutting the tree of illusion, that's where your question will get answered, Mataji. That's another analogy. And finally, surrender to the Lord is the final analogy. So, let's start with the reflection of the spiritual world. I have used a GIF here. So, material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. So, there are certain properties of this reflection. First, it is temporary. Second, this reflection is exactly opposite to what the actual reality is. Third, this reflection is not real, but it appears to be real. And fourth, it is dependent on the existence of the actual reality. Just relax. These are some points. Okay? You need not understand everything. At the end of each of these sub-points, I will make a very, very simple statement. Just note those points. Point to be noted. Material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. This much you know. That's all. Have you heard of that story? That in a jungle, there was a lion. In every jungle there is a lion. Which story are you?
The one he saw his reflection and jumped in.
Okay, can you recite the story for me?
Not in detail, but it was ultimately to fool the lion who was harsh. They made him look at the reflection and he thought there was another lion growling at it, so he jumped inside and drowned.
Very good. Very good. That's the story actually. So I could have changed the story, huh? I just said there was a lion. But see, I'm honest. So there was a lion in a jungle. It used to eat one animal a day. One day, a rabbit's turn came. I think it was a rabbit.
That it was rabbit.
Rabbit, huh? One day, a rabbit's turn came, and the rabbit was a little smart rabbit. It didn't want it to die. So he thought of a very brilliant plan. And he went and said to the lion, when he was going, he took a lot of time to reach there. And he went and met other friends and did whatever he wanted, all those things. Then, towards the evening, after past the lunchtime, he went to the lion and he said, "I'm here, you can have me." So the lion said, "But why are you late? I like to have my meals on time, otherwise I have gastroenteritis problem." So the rabbit said, "It's not my fault. I'm very chaste towards you. I'm surrendered to you. I was thinking about you. But there is another lion out there in the jungle. He stopped me and he challenged me that he wanted to eat me. But I said, I'm the property of this lion and not your property. So since he started arguing with me and then chasing me, so I got late." So the other lion, he thought, wow, there's another lion in the jungle. He started talking to the rabbit that I never knew that there's another lion. So the rabbit said, "You didn't know? There's another lion. And he's actually eating all the prey. Now, how can there be another lion except you in this jungle?" So then this lion got fired up, charged up. Yes, how can there be another lion? I am the center of this jungle. The whole jungle revolves around me. I am the center of this world. The whole world revolves around me. That's how the lion, all of us also think like that. So the lion thought like that, and with that mentality that he is the enjoyer, he is the lord of everything that he surveys, he went towards the well, and then he looked into the well, he saw another lion. But he didn't notice that this lion's head was opposite, ulta, to the original lion. Because he was filled with desire and hate, therefore he roared and he could hear an echo, and then he jumped in, and that's the end of the line. So this is a similar situation is ours in the material world. Let me take all these points step by step. First, I will cover how this reflection is temporary. First of all, there is disturbance in the medium of reflection, and that reflection is also distorted due to the environment in which the reflection is being made. Now, I will try to explain this practically what it means. So, the medium in which this reflection comes is what? Is the desire we have. Do you see between the Golok Vrindavan and that tree, there is a river in that photo which I have seen? That is the desire. That is the place where this tree gets reflected. So, always remember, the formation of this material world is on the basis of our desires. So, if somebody asks what is the main reason why this material world exists, the answer is desire. That's all. What are those desires? I want to enjoy separately from Krishna. I want to forget Krishna. I want to be the Lord, or actually, I want to be treated as the Lord. These are those desires. I hate Krishna. These are those desires, because of which the material world exists. The material world, if living entities did not have such a desire, then the material world wouldn't have existed. So the primary reason why the material world exists is because living entities have such desire and hate towards the Lord. And what is the function of this material world? It's like a jail where the living entities come, they get purified through the laws of material nature, they get purified through the presence of the divine teachings in terms of Bhagavad Gita and by the association of saintly people. Some of them take to these teachings and reform themselves and go out of this prison, and some of them eternally remain in this prison. That is the situation.
But even if there is no desire also, material world will exist. That's a doubt.
How can you say that?
With good people also, which is in material world will exist. Material world, like Satya Yuga, if you compare.
So why do you say people in Satyuga had no desires?
So that means they have affection towards Lord. So
In Satyuga, the tendency of people to be spiritual was more. But certainly they had material desires. That's why they came to the material world. You understand? Even in Satyuga, people had material desires. You cannot compare it to what that is of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is a dustbin.
actually material world means what we are seeing in these two eyes, right? That is correct.
No. There are many things which you cannot see, but they are still a part of the material world. In the Mahabharata, there is a description that Arjuna goes to Bhulok, Bhurlok, he goes to Swarglok. He goes to the capital of his father Indra, which is called Amravati. And with his own eyes, he was not able to actually see the opulence of Amravati. So Indra gave him some kind of a vision, so with which he could actually perceive the real opulence of Amravati. So in material world also you cannot see everything. My mind is a product of this material world. Can you see my mind? That's the end of discussion. Why do we talk about other planetary systems? We cannot see everything. That is for sure. You are a human being. You have different extents, you have a different limit to which you can see things. There is a demigod, he can see different things. Now if he starts saying that whatever I see is material world, then the definition changes. There is a small ant. From sitting here I can see so many things. But the ant may not be able to see. And if the ant also comes and argues with you, I am also a person of this material world, and whatever I see is the limit of the material world. You see, this definition is very subjective. That is why it is very important for us who have 4 defects in our senses. All of us have 4 defects in our senses. What are those 4 defects? From
Prone
previous?
to error. Prone to error.
We make mistakes.
We make mistakes. Tendency to cheat.
tendency to cheat, imperfect senses, illusion. Thank you. Oh Krishna, my life as a teacher is successful. Always remember that these are the 4 defects of the senses. Srila Prabhupada took these points that senses are 4 defective from the commentaries of Jiva Goswami. So these are actual facts. So any definition which we make based on our senses concerning the world around us is bound to be wrong. Like you made a definition. Whatever I see is the material world, and whatever I don't see, you'll say it is spiritual world. Correct? You cannot see the ghost who is sitting right there. The ghost is spiritual. So that is why it is very, very important to have a discussion based on the Shastra. For any discussion, the platform of the discussion should be scriptures. If somebody is not ready to discuss on the platform of scriptures, don't waste your time. Just exit that discussion, because that discussion is a waste of time. If using scriptures somebody is trying to prove something, this and that, then you may try to participate in that. That too also, there are Mayavadis. So, it takes a lot to talk to the Mayavadis, because they are fully convinced to murder Krishna, kill Krishna in his own commentary. It's very sad. So, this reflection is temporary. Why? Because the medium of reflection is our desire, and our desires are ever changing. How many of you have the same desire which you had 1 year before? Nobody. It keeps changing. How many of you can eat poha for the rest of your lifetime for the breakfast every day, day after day, again and again? I thought someone raised their hand. So desire keeps changing. So if the desire is the medium in which this tree is being reflected, in this lifetime I have some desire, in next lifetime I'll have some desire. Today I have some desire, tomorrow I have some desire. Therefore, the material world appears in different ways. Therefore, it is temporary. Now does it make sense? So this much Krishna said in just one line. And so this reflection of the whole material world, it exists in our desire, not in actuality. Please understand, I'm not saying that the material world is false. I'm just saying that the basis of this material world is our desire and hate. That's all. Imagine if somebody is seeing this reflection. I'm taking a real, very, brute example. A small child, he doesn't know that there is a tree behind him, but he sees the reflection of a nice apple in the water. And the child jumps into the water. And then when he jumps, he doesn't find the water. The apple. And then he starts crying. What will you call that child? A foolish child. We are all doing that actually. The material world is real. The desire which we have, the desire for happiness which we are trying, like I said, the material world is real, but the promise of happiness in this material world is unreal. Note this down. The material world is real, but the promise of happiness in this material world is unreal. Therefore, we are all frustrated. We are thinking that there is happiness in this world where there is actually no happiness.
Last slide said it's not real actually.
Which line?
The previous slide does.
That's not he's saying, still saying.
Who?
No, you're saying the last slide said it's unreal. Not real, but appears to be real.
Yeah, that's what I'm explaining. So the material world is based on the desires. The reflection of the material world is based on the desires. The material world is real, but the promise of happiness in this material world is unreal. Try to understand it from that perspective. So what happens when this desires, when they settle down, when the water, when it settles down, then you again start seeing the clear reflection of the tree. So again you think, oh, now the apple has come. So again you jump, and again it gets distorted. Again you get frustrated. Again you let the water settle down. Again you see the apple. Again you jump. Like this it's going on. Punarapi janmam, punarapi maranam, punah punah charvita charvananam. Every time we think, this time if I do this, that's all. After this, there is no need to do this thing again. This time, if I get this, I'll be fully satisfied. Once you get it, or whether you get it, whether you don't get it, you are frustrated. And then again, you get depressed, frustrated for some time. Shamshan Vairagi comes. Many people become Vairagis when someone expires in their family. For 2-3 days, they will talk like, I don't know, self-realized people. But after 4th day, back to normal. The same thing happens. Okay, so this is the reflection aspect. Next point which I want to cover is that this reflection is opposite to the spiritual world. So the nature of this material world is exactly opposite to the spiritual world. This means that the things which are topmost in this material world, they are the bottommost things in the spiritual world, and the things which are the highest aspects of the spiritual world, they will become lowest in the spiritual world. That's how it is.
Actually, we'll forget the actual desires once we come to the material world.
Sorry?
We'll forget the actual, real desires.
Yeah.
The purpose of.
Correct. So, manifestation of the Lord, I want to discuss. Many people say, let God prove Himself by being present before me. If He can come here in the next 2 seconds, I will believe, otherwise I will walk out of this Gita course. People talk like this. But there is a qualification, eligibility criteria to see the Lord. It's not so easy. It's very difficult to meet important people of this city. What to speak about meeting the chief minister of this state, what to speak about meeting the prime minister of this country. We are talking about the most important personality in the whole creation, in the whole material and spiritual worlds, Krishna. So, the Lord eternally exists in the spiritual world, but He also, via the medium of His energies, exists in the material world. Does this make sense? For example, this body is made out of earth, water, fire, air, ether. Mind, intelligence, false ego. Anything else is there? Nothing? No more details? What about blood, stool, urine, pus, mucus? All that is there inside. Many people think, oh, this body is so beautiful. Let me take care of it. But actually it contains what? Blood. Sorry for this graphic description, but I want you people to understand this, that there is just the beautiful packaging. But inside, if you see, it's just blood, stool, urine, pus, and that's all. Just because of this small packaging, people go crazy and they spend lifetimes going to the gym, putting this fairness cream, this hair, this dress. So we have to understand that we are not this body. And the real existence of the Supreme Lord, coming back to this point, my body is made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether. But can I say that the entire earth exists in my body? No. Earth is here. Earth is there in your hand also, my hand also, your head also, my head also. But outside our bodies, the earth exists in totality. Similarly, Krishna exists in each and everything, in each and every place, in each and every person. But in totality, he exists in Golok Vrindavan. Are you able to understand this? Very difficult?
Yeah, so put another.
Good, yeah, you have to understand like this. To understand Krishna is not easy. I'm just giving some material examples to explain this. This concept comes from the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So the whole Bhagavatam, 18,000 verses, can be summarized in 4 verses. These 4 verses were spoken by Lord to Brahma. Then the same 4 verses were spoken by Brahma to Narad. The same 4 verses were spoken by Narad to Vyas, and Vyas expanded these 4 verses into 18,000 verses. And the scriptures say that if somebody expands these 4 verses into 4 lakh verses also, it is possible. Still, those 4 lakh verses and these 4 verses, they will be of the same intensity. That is the potential of Srimad Bhagavatam. In the higher planetary systems, where people have longer lifetimes, the Bhagavatam on Earth, the Srimad Bhagavatam may contain 18,000 verses, but in the higher planetary systems, they may have 18 billion verses. Same subject matter. See the potential of Bhagavatam. 4 lines, Lord said, and from that, plethora of knowledge is coming out. So that is the existence of Lord. In the spiritual world, I'm just trying to make you understand that the way Lord exists and the way we exist is completely opposite. Duration of existence. The Lord is eternal. We are not eternal in this material world. As these bodies. As spirit souls, we are eternal. But in the material world, there is nothing permanent. In spiritual world, everything is permanent. In material world, nothing is permanent. Okay? And our bodies are going through some transformations like birth, growth, maintenance, reproduction. They dwindle away and finally they die. The spiritual world is self-effulgent. The material world needs a sun or a moon. The Bhagavad Gita, there is a shloka. What is the shloka? Na tad bhashayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yat gatva na nivartante tad dham paramam mamaha. So, in the spiritual world, there is no need of a sun or a moon or electricity. Can you imagine a place which is bright without a sun or a moon or electricity? That is spiritual world. So from this we have to understand that spiritual world is something which is beyond our mind can conceive and intelligence can think, and it is something beyond our experience. Natad bhashete suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yad gatva na nivartante. One who ever goes there has no obligation to come back. Why? Because everything there is self-effulgent. Because Krishna is there, and Krishna is the source of all effulgence. And from Krishna, the whole spiritual world is effulgent. All Vaikuntha planets are effulgent. And that effulgence leaks out from the Vaikuntha near the material world as Brahma Jyoti, and then it comes in the material world also a little bit. So, illumination is that the material world is always dark, but the spiritual world is always effulgent. Happiness, this material world is defined as dukhalayam ashashvatam, but nobody says like that about the spiritual world. Have you seen any photo of Krishna where he is very sad, or in depression, or in chinta, or old? You've not seen that, because that is not the case in spiritual world. Have you seen these days, and have you seen that Jaya Vijay deities outside temples? These days they put Jaya Vijay outside Durga temple also, Kali temple also. I've seen all kinds of demigod temple have Jaya Vijay standing outside. I don't know where they got the reference from, but Jaya Vijay are essentially in front of Vishnu temples. So have you seen any deity of Jaya Vijay where they are very weak, or maybe in the middle age? It's always youthful. So that is the spiritual world. Where's my phone? Please get me my phone. So I will try to, have I ever read the description of Vaikuntha for you people?
No.
So I'm reading from the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 15, shloka number 16, hopefully. I'll quickly read the descriptions. Just listen. Don't try to ask any questions, okay? In those Vaikuntha planets, there are many forests which are very auspicious. In those forests, the trees are desire trees. And in all seasons, they are filled with flowers and fruits because everything in Vaikuntha planets is spiritual and personal. In the Vaikuntha planets, the inhabitants fly in their aeroplanes, accompanied by their wives and consorts, and eternally sing of the character and activities of the Supreme Lord, which are always devoid of all inauspicious qualities. While singing the glories of the Lord, they deride even the presence of blossoming Madhavi flowers, which are fragrant and laden with honey. When the king of bees hums in a high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord, there is a temporary lull in the noise of the pigeon, the cuckoo, the crane, the chervaka, the swan, the parrot, the partridge, and the peacock. Such transcendental birds stop their own singing simply to hear the glories of the Lord. Although the flowering plants like Mandara, Kunda, Kurbaka, Utpala, Champaka, Aranga, Punnaga, Nagakeshara, Bakula, Lily, and Parijat are full of transcendental fragrance, they are still conscious of the austerities performed by Tulsi, for Tulsi is given special preference by the Lord, who garlands himself with Tulsi leaves. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha travel in aeroplanes made of lapis lazuli, emerald, and gold. Although crowded by their consorts, who have large hips and beautiful smiling faces, they cannot be stimulated by the passion. They cannot be stimulated to passion by their mirth and beautiful charms. The ladies in Vaikuntha planets are as beautiful as the goddesses of fortune herself. Such transcendently beautiful ladies, their hands playing with lotuses and their leg bangles tinkling, are sometimes seen sweeping the marble walls, which are bedecked at intervals with golden borders in order to receive a small grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The goddesses of fortune worship the Lord in their own gardens by offering tulsi leaves on the coral paved banks of transcendental reservoirs of water. While offering worship to the Lord, they can see on the water the reflection of their beautiful faces with raised noses, and it appears that they have become more beautiful because of the Lord's kissing their faces. It is very much regrettable that the unfortunate people do not discuss the description of Vaikuntha planets, but engage in topics which are unworthy to hear and which bewilder one's intelligence. Those who give up the topics of Vaikuntha and take to the talk of this material world are thrown into the darkest region of ignorance. Who is telling all this? Brahma is telling all this. So Brahma just described the Vaikuntha planets in brief. There is more. The whole chapter is Vaikuntha. I am stopping here. While reading this verse, I really liked the verse where the king of bees hums in a high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord. There is a temporary lull in the noise of the pigeon, the cuckoo, the crane, the charvaka, the swan, the parrot, and the partridge and the peacock. Such transcendental birds stop their own singing simply to hear the glories of the Lord. You know what this verse means? It means that there is no envy in the spiritual world. These birds, the cuckoo, the crane, the pigeon, the swan, the parrots, they can sing beautifully. But when they hear a drone or a bee singing the glories of the Lord, they don't tell the bee, you get lost, I'm a cuckoo. They forget their own greatness and they all just stop to listen to the drone singing, listen to the bee who is singing. This means that there is no mundane competition in the spiritual world. There is no enviousness in the spiritual world. Next verse also it says like that. There are so many beautiful flowers, champaka, punnaga, bakula, parijat. But they are all respectful towards a tree which bears no flowers, which is Tulsi. This means there is no. Just try to understand the atmosphere of the spiritual world and what it will take to go there. So this is Vaikuntha. Unfortunate are those people who do not read such scriptures and who do not have this information. Okay? So that is spiritual world, material world difference. Attitude, I just explained the difference in attitude. People in the material world want to exploit us. People in the material world want to take service from us. But in spiritual world, it is just the opposite. The great birds want to serve the bee. In spiritual world, there is a competition who can serve whom more. But in material world, there is a competition how can I exploit everybody and take service from them. So this is what it means that the material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world, and everything is just opposite. Is it clear now? This is the point. This Krishna said in 3 words, this point. Not real, but it appears to be real. Again, nobody should tell me that you just said material world is real, but you are saying it is not real. Please listen to what I am saying. Material world is real. The objects of this world are also real, but the promise of happiness is unreal. How many of you have seen a plastic mango? It appears like a mango. Can you eat it? These days, all of us have plastic flowers at home. No need to change them. Put them in the altar of the Lord also. Always beautiful. No need to do any this thing. So, it appears like real, but it is not real. I don't need to explain this point. The nature of the material world is that it over promises and under delivers. Is it correct? I thought this will happen to me, but this didn't happen to me. We try to achieve something being promised of happiness. We get that happiness for a flickering time. Then some other problem comes, or maybe someone makes us another promise that, okay, this is there, but this is not giving you full happiness. You work hard more, you'll get 10 times more happiness. So we again work hard. Again, we either achieve or don't achieve. Somehow we get cheated. And then we realize this is not what I wanted. So this game is going on. So we have to understand that trying to find happiness externally in the material world is a waste of time. Happiness can only exist in a relationship between Krishna and me. Happiness can only exist in a relationship between the devotees of Krishna and me. So anybody who tries to find the happiness outside the holy name, outside the relationship with Krishna, is simply wasting their time. Just think of few things which give you happiness. And if you can share, we can have a discussion. Think of something which gives you happiness. It can be a helicopter or a pizza, whatever.
So for example, when your child succeeds.
When your child succeeds, yeah. Should we discuss this? Okay. The concept is this appears real, but actually it is not real, which means the happiness which I get from my child succeeding is not actually giving me the real happiness. Who can argue in favor or against this point? Come on, you're all future preachers. Try to explain how the happiness which I get by seeing my child succeeding is not actually fully satisfying my heart.
I think it's also, when you feel happy when your child succeeds, it's also feeding your ego.
Yeah.
So it's not
Why don't you feel happy when somebody else's child succeeds?
that attachment.
Attachment is basically attachment. When you see your child, succeeding at the
It is
age.
your own achievement.
Yeah.
That is
My child.
my child.
आखिर बेटा किसका है? My child.
We always tell our own children, please behave properly, don't bring bad name to me. But we are happy when the neighboring child is succeeding. Again, it comes to that
So I really like this point which you people have only made, that the success of my child is not the success of my child, but the success of my ego.
But suppose if person is on a deathbed, his child succeeded already, he won't be happy.
The person is having no attachment.
A person who's on a deathbed, he sees his child score so and so, will he be happy?
What do you think?
That's the question I was.
No, no. What is your thought?
I don't think so he'll be happy.
He'll not be happy?
If he's attached to material world, he'll never be happy.
If he's attached to material world, he'll never be happy.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't understand. If he's attached to material world, definitely if his child succeeds, he'll be happy.
No, but then he's dying at that point of time.
I had a
More
teacher.
attached to his body and his life. That's I think what's.
Okay. On record, I am saying I had a drawing arts teacher. His name was Venkat, Mr. Venkat, D. Venkat. Very good in arts. Somehow he suffered from cancer. I think I was in the 6th or the 7th standard at that time. His family was requesting for some help from all the students. So all of us were taking turns to go in the hospital. One of my friends went and told, this time I've got this much percentage marks in my class. And Venkat, our teacher, Venkat sir, he was supposed to die. He would have left the body in the next 2-3 days. Like that was his situation. When he heard it, he opened his eyes and he said, very good. What happened to that person? How much did he get? This is a real incident. On record, I am telling it. This video will go everywhere. With no disrespect to him, he is one of my teachers. He has taught me so many values in life. But this is what I have seen. These are facts. Even on deathbed, people are not able to detach themselves from the ideas and the perspectives which they have. Sometimes. Actually, let's say most of the times. Another example. Once Akbar asked Birbal that when is the time when someone will stop being lusty? So Birbal said, never. Akbar said, what do you mean? A person at deathbed will definitely stop being lusty. So after that, Birbal did an experiment. He said, so we have come to know that such and such person is dying. Let's go to his home. I will come, you also come, and you bring your young daughter also. And we'll see what happens. Akbar said, yeah, I will go. When he will see me, he will feel very respectable. He will feel, I'm so honorable that at my death time the king has come to meet this and that. But it so happened when all these three people, when they entered the room, that man who was about to die was looking towards the daughter at the deathbed. So a person who says that life is meant for enjoyment, enjoy your life, this is youth, this is young age, when you become old, practice spirituality, is actually cheating you. Because these desires are going to become malignant cancers when you become old. Very recently, I met a very disgusting old man. I know him from 2015. The kind of questions which he had was crazy. It was unbelievable that even at the age of 72, so many lusty desires can be there in the heart. At the age of 72, he is going to nightclubs. At the entrance, he is paying something. And then when he enters, he pays more for other services. Why? Because the lusty desire is there. So we have to understand that this happiness which that 70-year-old man is getting, or that man at the deathbed is getting, or someone at the success of their child is getting, is not lasting happiness and not real happiness, because had they achieved happiness, they wouldn't have wanted anything after that. This lusty man, why is he going to the nightclub? Because he's thinking he'll get happiness. He spent 10,000 rupees, he didn't get happiness, so again he will go, thinking that this time I will get. You understand the point? So the happiness, the so-called happiness, in case of the son or the daughter succeeding or the child succeeding, that happiness is the delta happiness. If you hear your child has succeeded, you will be very happy. But then if your child told you, that everybody else in the class has got more than me, then your happiness will go for a toss. It's the delta which gives us the happiness. So this is not happiness. Okay, moving on. Somebody, you had a doubt, Mataji.
When you were talking about desire, I had a doubt. So, I mean, whose desire is it?
Soul's desire.
So, what is the meaning of the reflection there?
The desire. Our desire. Based on our desire, the material world is existing for us. Please understand like this, a monkey has some other kind of desire. To him, this material world has a different meaning and a different existence. You and me have some other desires. A saintly person has some other desire. For a normal person who has materialistic desires, Krishna says this world is dukkhalayam, ashashvatam, anityam, asukham. But a person who sees Krishna everywhere, for him this whole world is like Vaikuntha. Now how can you see Krishna everywhere? Who can answer this?
Krishna conscious one.
How?
Chant and meditation.
Who can chant 24 hours?
I think purification.
How to get that purification?
Surrender to him.
Give me something practical, not theoretical.
You were talking about Karma Yoga.
One second, one moment. You were saying something, Gita Mani.
Association of devotees, eating prasad, having prasad, and chanting, and reading.
Surrender.
But how do you see Krishna everywhere? I can tell you, I have been chanting Hare Krishna from the last 4 years. I have not seen the Vishwaroop till now. What should I do?
Energy of the Lord.
Sorry?
To the energy of the Lord. What
And-
is energy of the Lord?
What is the energy?
That means you, something, everything is doing because he wants to do that particular thing.
Yes, you also wanted to add something, Sujata Mataji?
No, nothing more.
I'll give you a practical example which will make more sense. What will you, I heard this example in one of the classes, but it really struck to me. Suppose if you go this side, what do you see? Slippers. Correct? How many of you see Krishna, can see Krishna in those slippers? None of you. Who has a child here? You have a child. Let's say if your child was a little small, you would have first gone and found the slippers of your child. And those small slippers would have reminded you of your child. So actually when you're seeing those slippers, you're not seeing those slippers, you're seeing the child. You're thinking about the child. You're meditating upon the child. That is Krishna consciousness. Just like when a father or a mother, when they see a slipper, they don't see the slipper, but they see the child. Similarly, a devotee, when he sees something, by the knowledge of the scriptures, by the association of devotees, he is able to link it with Krishna, and he is able to think of some name, some quality, some form, or some pastime of Krishna in relation to that. That is called Krishna consciousness. That is called seeing Krishna everywhere. When I see the first cloud of the monsoon, that reminds me of Krishna. And then I start remembering the verses which describe the beauty of Krishna. Then I start remembering the pastimes of Krishna. Then I start remembering, this is Krishna consciousness. This means seeing Krishna everywhere. And not like, I have seen Krishna here, I have seen the 400 form here, I have seen the Trivanga there. At very exalted stage, you may be able to do that. But primarily, this is it. When you hear of the Bhagavad Gita, it should remind you of Krishna. Similarly, when you chant the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. It should give you so many things. But don't force it upon yourself. There have been chanters in the past who said that while chanting, I was trying to imagine the form of Krishna, in that the chakra was not visible. These kind of things should not be done. Let it be natural. When you become advanced in your chanting, why I always say Nam, Rupa, Guna, Leela, name, form, qualities, pastime. This is an order. When you become advanced in your chanting, when you receive an initiation from a bona fide spiritual master, and when you chant offenselessly for many, many years, then this holy name, this Harinam, will reveal to you the root or the form of the Supreme Lord. Just like it was revealed to Narad Muni in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. But don't try to forcefully or artificially do it. Prabhuji, I'm chanting Hare Krishna from the last 6 months. When do you think I'll see the Vishwarup? So this question should not come to me. Once one person said, he was, I don't know what his background, but I have read this in a conversation. Someone came to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, when I chant Hare Krishna, I see a light. You know what Prabhupada said? Keep chanting, the light will go away. So that's how we have to be very, very practical. But I really like this example. When a father or a mother sees the slippers of a small baby, they don't actually see the slipper, but they're actually seeing and thinking and meditating on the baby. So similarly, we should be able to link the things around us to Krishna. It should strike a deep meditation about Krishna. And the best way to meditate on Krishna is to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ye yatha mam prapadyante, tams tathaiva bhajamyaham, mam vartman vartante, manushya partha sarvashah. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. So basically, everyone is looking for Krishna only. Some know it, some don't know it. This is in a nutshell. Everyone in the world, whether they know Krishna or whether they don't know Krishna, whether they are spiritual, whether they are not spiritual, whether they are atheists, whether they are rascals, whether they are Maya, Aparita, Jnana, whether they are Devi, Masum, whatever, those 4 categories which Bhagavad Gita says, whatever they are, everybody is actually looking for Krishna. Because Krishna is happiness. Krishna is the source of happiness. He is the source, he is the fountainhead of all happiness. Everything begins with him. So everybody is actually hankering for that lasting experience of happiness, but they are not getting it. Therefore they are frustrated. Therefore they are taking births after births. And therefore this material world exists. Therefore everybody is looking for Krishna. Some know it, some don't know it. The job of the saintly people is to make them realize that you please end your search for happiness and chant Hare Krishna. And you'll get that.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
In this month, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, what is Hare meaning here?
Very good. Hare means the energy of the Lord. So Hara is the energy of the Lord, and when you talk in vocative case, it means the energy of the Lord. So Hare Krishna, you are addressing the energy of the Lord to please engage me in the service of the Lord. Why? Because that's my constitutional position. I've already told this. Jivera Swarup Hai Krishnera Nityadas. We will get happiness only when we engage all our senses in the service of Krishna. That is true happiness. Lasting happiness. Constitutional right. Constitutional position to be engaged in the service of Krishna. The unhappiness comes, the problem comes, the material existence comes, the illusion comes when we stop serving Krishna and start serving our own senses. When we start thinking that I am the center of this material world and the whole world revolves around me, I'm really, really important. How many of us think like this? All of us. Who will know the names of any one of us 120 years from now? What is our value? But still we feel that I'm so important and the whole world revolves around me. This is called illusion. This is called Maya. This is called forgetfulness of the fact that I am a servant of Krishna. And this is where the search for happiness ends into frustration. Okay? So this is the definition of Hare Krishna. Next point. We are still in the first point, reflection of the spiritual world. The fourth sub-point is, this reflection is dependent on the reality. That means if the spiritual world does not exist, the material world will not exist. The material world exists. This itself is the proof of the fact that there is a spiritual world. Because this material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. Any difficulty? Kurvanath? Any point you have? Okay. The impersonalists or the Mayavadis, they don't accept the reality that reality has variety. They say that spirituality means monotonous and no variety. This whole concept of merging in the Brahma Jyoti or merging in the supreme effulgence, becoming one with God, becoming God, this is a baseless philosophy. Just because I have this body, and just because my body is like this, and because of that I have this pain here, so therefore, eternal happiness means there should be no body. Because if body is there, that means pain will be there. This is the idea. This idea is so stupid. It means like if I have an EMI to pay for my house, let's just burn the house. Or maybe blast the house. And then I don't have to pay the EMI. Will it work? Will it work? Suppose you buy a villa in Prestige Lakeside Habitat. Worth how much?
5 crore.
3.5 crores. And you cannot pay for it. So you burst it. You put a dynamite and you blast it. And then you say, see, I don't have any house. I don't have a house. I'm under the sky. So will they leave you? Sounds really stupid, no? People have based lifetimes on this kind of philosophy. Merging in the supreme effulgence. Becoming one. Becoming formless. There are cantos after cantos, verses after verses of description of the spiritual world. People are going to the spiritual world, coming and then saying, but they are not doing. It's like I go to Australia, I come back and I tell you I have seen kangaroos. But you are saying no, there's nothing like kangaroos. There's nothing called Australia. Narad Muni, all the time he keeps going here and there, and he keeps coming and telling, but these people they will not believe. That's the problem. So what we have to understand, if this reflection on water exists, the reflection of the tree exists on water, that means the tree is also there. Is it possible that the reflection is there and the tree is not there? Is it possible that the shadow is there but the body is not there? So how is it possible that the material world is there but spiritual world is not there? It's not possible. The proof of the existence of the spiritual world is this material world. The perverted reflection. Okay? Moving on. The next point is tips, leaves and twigs. So I think someone already told what they mean. Tips of the main branches are called the senses. From those tips come small twigs, that is compared to the sense objects, and leaves that grow from these twigs are compared to the Vedic hymns. Who understands the meaning of this? That is the reason why I am asking such questions which may sound embarrassing, because please try and understand, if you do not get a parampara explanation of these verses, you are finished. What will you understand? Tips of these main branches are called senses. What do you mean by it? Wow, tell me. Many people say, I don't need a spiritual master. And there are some so-called spiritual people, they say, I have never read any scripture. And they are passing away as great yogis and cheaters exist because people want to be cheated. So what this points basically is talking about the Vedas. There is a verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna is telling to Arjuna, Traigunya Vishya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna Nirdvando Nityasvatvastho Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. Krishna is telling the Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes, be free from all dualities and from all anxieties, and gain and safety and be established in the self. So basically 90% of the Vedas, 90%, maybe even more, they talk about dharma, arth, kam and moksha. Moksha also very little bit. Mostly they talk about religiosity, sense gratification, economic development, and very little part talks about liberation. So Arjuna is being told by Krishna that you please rise above all these four things. Target to get prema bhakti, which is above dharma, artha, kam and moksha. Maximum part of the Vedas is if you do this sacrifice, if you do this austerity, if you do this vrata, then you will go to this planetary system, you will enjoy this, you will enjoy that, you will have blah and blah and blah. If you want a good husband, worship this. If you want a good health, worship that. This is going on. If you want this person, this, that, whatever desire you can think of, there is a process, a bona fide process to achieve it. You think of something, there is a process in the Vedas. Now, in the yoga ladder section, we have already covered that some people follow the process and they achieve it thinking that is the goal of life. Some people don't follow the process, and in Kali Yuga it is worst. Nothing. If I want money, just go and rob the bank. That's Kali Yuga. There's no concept of yajna or sacrifice or following the process of the Vedic authorities in Kali Yuga. Simply get it. I want it, I just get it. How does not matter. So, what I'm trying to say here is, don't get bewildered by the flowery language of the Vedas. In our center, there is a number. Day before yesterday, someone called. She was, I don't know the lady, I never talked with her. The person who was receiving the phone call, he came and told me all these things. She was crying and crying and crying on the phone. She said, I am reading Garud Puran. And then it is told that if somebody commits this kind of a sin, they go to this kind of hell, and this is how their body is treated. And she was reading, why is God like this? I don't want this to happen to me. And then she was literally driving the person who was lifting, she was driving him crazy. So this is called flowery language of the Vedas. They get bewildered by it. They think attaining a life where I can drink such and such heavenly beverage and enjoy 10,000 times more sense gratification is the purpose of life. Let's go on the moon planet. Let's gratify my senses. Let's go to Amravati, the planet of Indra, or the capital of Indra, and let's enjoy the heavenly pleasures and let's live life. That they think this is the purpose of life. They don't know that just like if the rent of a house is 10,000 rupees and if you have 20,000 rupees, then you can live there only for how many?
2 months.
How many? 2 months? Are you sure? You have 20,000 rupees and the rent is 10,000. 2 years? See? 2 years or 2 months? 2 years. Maybe he'll borrow money from his father. So, if you don't have the money, what will happen? You'll be kicked out of the house. Correct? Similarly, when you go to such pious places where pious living entities they exist, whether it is Bhuvar Loka or Swarg Loka or Jana Loka or Tapa Loka or Mahar Loka or even Brahma Loka, the moment your pious spirits get exhausted, you'll be kicked out of there. And you'll have to come back to this material world, this earth. Actually, everything is material world. You'll have to come back to Bhuloka and then same bhajan cheta will begin. Nothing new will happen. Yes. That's the shloka. Shine punya marti loka. Yes. Whenever the punya becomes kshina, you'll be thrown out. This is the reality. So this whole tree, our senses are there, here and there. We want to gratify our senses. So we read the scriptures, the flowery language of the Vedas. We get bewildered by it. We think this is the thing to do. That's how all this demigod worship came into our society. People got mistakenly confused that what is the purpose of life. They forgot what is the supreme truth. They engaged in all this thinking that this will give them happiness, but this did not give them ultimate happiness. And therefore, The next point, branches going upward and downwards. Sometimes a living entity goes into the higher planetary systems, sometimes a living entity goes into the lower planetary systems. So the higher planetary systems are the branches which go upwards. The lower planetary systems are the branches which go downwards. And in this way, the soul is constantly wandering. Sometimes here, sometimes there, sometimes here, sometimes there. Whole Brahmand, it is wandering. Brahmand Brahmite, Kauno Bhagyavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasad Paye Bhakti Lata Bij. So only a very fortunate person or a very fortunate soul who is wandering in this whole universe, sometimes as a demigod, sometimes as a demon, sometimes as a human being, sometimes as an amoeba, sometimes as a pig, sometimes as a dog, sometimes as some tree. Very fortunate people get the blessing or the mercy of Guru and Krishna. Guru Krishna Prasad Pai Bhakti Lata. Very rarely someone comes in contact of Guru and Krishna, and when this happens, causelessly, then their fortune awakens. Then their chance of going back to Godhead fructifies. And don't think that all of us are here, so we have done something very great, and because we have done something very great, so we are here. One should never think that I was a very pious person, therefore I took to bhakti. No. Bhakti is causeless. Somebody became merciful once. That's all. Otherwise, for millions of lifetimes, we would have been going upwards, downwards. Share market example I have taken. A high planetary system, lower planetary system, high planetary system, lower planetary system. It will be going on like this until and unless someone causelessly becomes merciful on us. It's not possible to come out of this vicious cycle where the soul is eternally trapped. So Krishna has given free will to everybody, and he, being a gentleman, does not interfere with anybody's free will. But he has given the agency of distributing his mercy or devotion to his devotees. So devotees have this agency. Krishna will never come directly and give you bhakti. No. Never. Or let's say extremely rare cases. It's only a devotee who will interfere in your lifetime and who will trick you into Krishna consciousness, finish your material life and make you a devotee. This thing Krishna can never do. No, Krishna will never come and force you, please chant Hare Krishna. Only a devotee will do that. Therefore, devotee has this agency. Therefore, devotees are really powerful. Simply if a devotee desires, let this person become a devotee of Krishna, he will become a devotee of Krishna. That which couldn't have happened in billions of kalpas happens in a moment. Therefore, a Vaishnava is considered very, very respectful. Therefore, it is said that if you follow a Vaishnava, you will ultimately reach the lotus feet of Krishna. Otherwise, it's not possible. And the best Vaishnava is the spiritual master. That's why Krishna says, Tadavidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshana. First, approach a spiritual master, render service to him, surrender to him, ask questions in a submissive way. He will tell you how to attain me. And that is Krishna consciousness. Next, there are subroots, subroots extra strong. So this is very common to understand. We have seen a banyan tree which keeps flowing. The aerial roots are there. I had made one very nice diagram in my notes. I'm just looking for that diagram. So, what I'm trying to say here is that every fruitive activity sends down a subroot which eventually gets grounded. These subroots are attachments and aversions. So we all have some likes and dislikes, right? Mataji, do you like Karela? You like? Is there anyone who does not like Karela? You don't like Karela? Why? Because it is? But she likes. Is she crazy? She has attachment to Karela, you have aversion to Karela. None of you can explain why. Actually, none of you can tell why you like it or why you don't like it. These are the activities or the reflections or the impressions which is there in our subconsciousness or in our minds. How many lifetimes? Maybe in some lifetime you would have eaten Karela, and because of that something would have happened. So he would have got a great dislike, and till now he is having a dislike in this lifetime also. In my family, everybody likes Karela except me. How is it possible to tell me? My father loves Kerala, my mother loves Kerala, my sisters love Kerala, my grandfather loves Kerala. Even my grandmother, who expired before I took birth, she loved Kerala. How is it possible that I don't like Kerala? Because I'm a soul. Although I'm biologically connected, the DNA may be connected, but my subconsciousness, my karma is completely different from my family. It has got nothing to do with me. So these attachments and aversions, whatever activity we do, it creates further chain of reactions and they lead to attachments and aversions, and these subroots. If you go to Kolkata, there is a botanical garden. It's very difficult to say which is the main trunk of the banyan tree. So that is what Krishna means when he says no one knows where it ends and where it begins. So if somebody tries to find out how I actually fell into this material world, nobody can trace that point, or nobody can understand. Or if someone tries to say that I will try to understand how this material world is working and I will try to finish all my miseries, they will utterly fail. They will think this is the root of my misery, they will cut it, they will find there is another root. So there is a diagram which I want to make today. I think this needs to be covered. So, there is something called as ignorance, which is called avidya. This avidya leads to many desires. We can call these desires as the seeds. Bijam. Because of this, we do many sinful activities. Let's say pap. This pap has two kinds of manifestations. Either it is aprarabdha or prarabdha.
You explained this earlier.
That's why I'm again. We need to repeat the same point again and again because in Kali Yuga it's very difficult to understand. And this leads to further sinful dispositions, which is called as kutam, and this kutam will again produce more sinful desires. This is the cycle. Avidya means we are not able to understand who we are constitutionally. We are thinking we are this body, and therefore this body wants to become rich, this body wants to become famous, this body wants to become strong, this body wants to become beautiful, this body wants to do this, X, Y, Z. That is called avidya. Because of that, we sow seeds for doing sinful activities, which causes various lifetimes to happen. Because of this sinful activities, you can say desires, these are in our heart. Now if somebody asks you, will you ever shoot a rabbit? You'll say no, but you never know. This sinful beast may be there in our heart. We can say, I will never do this sinful activity. But if we are exposed to that kind of an environment, only then we will come to know. So from so many lifetimes, how many bijas or how many sinful seeds are there in our consciousness, we don't know. We cannot say for sure. Because of these sinful things, we do pap. this pap either becomes aprarabdha, either the result of this pap will get pushed into the pipeline and come in some future lifetime, or maybe after 1 year or 1 day or 1 hour, no one knows, based on the kind of beej it is or based on the kind of pap it is, or else it will immediately manifest. Prarabdha. Aprarabdha or prarabdha. In case if it is aprarabdha, then because you had this beej and because you did this sinful activity, so your disposition becomes sinful. You become more prone to doing sinful activities.
You're not getting full of that.
You're not getting full. So you're thinking, I'm getting away with it. I'm doing this sinful thing and nothing is happening to me. So let's do it more and more. So that's called kutam. And this kutam gives rise to further sinful desires. Or sins. Desire to do sins. So this cycle you can compare it to the roots which are coming out of that tree. And this makes your positioning in the material world more and more strong. And then you are stuck in the material world. All because of avidya. You just forgot who you are. So, this is the main problem. So, in the light of this diagram, if you draw it in your notebooks, try to make this as a circle. Due to lack of space, I couldn't make it. This is a circle and just put prarabdha outside, because that's a completely separate topic. So, that is the understanding of this subroots of the material tree. So, the point which I am trying to make is the cause of our distress or the cause of our conditioning, we don't know it, because it can be from many, many lifetimes. Therefore, to give a good material solution to the problem which we are facing or the distress which we have is also impossible, because we do not know the root, which is the real root. So what is the solution of this problem? I'm going to tell. Don't think, I'm going to tell. Bhagavad Gita has the answers. So this is the point which I was telling. Ichha dvesha samuthena dandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti paramtapa. 7.27. Because of desire and hate, O son, O sign of Bharata, O conqueror of all foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by the dualities arisen from desire and hate. So avidya comes from desire and hate. Foolish people try to solve these problems of the material world by making Panchavarshiya yojanas, by coming up with newer and newer schemes, communism, Xism, Yism, so many isms came and went, so many congregations were made, so many United Nations were made. They are all trying to solve the problem, but the root cause of all the problems is avidya, desire and hate. That no one is trying to solve. Until and unless you attack the root of the problem, how can you solve the illusory existence of this material world? So we have to cut down this entire tree. For that, to cut the tree of illusion, we need transcendental knowledge. And we need detachment. We need two things to disengage from this material world: Gyan and Vairagya. When I say Gyan, I do not mean bookish knowledge. If you are an engineer, you have higher chances of going back to God. I don't mean to say that. When I say Gyan, I mean transcendental knowledge. Arjuna was hankering for this transcendental knowledge. Arjuna had a lot of knowledge before, as far as military science was concerned, and so many other walks of life. But he was hankering for transcendental knowledge. The difference between the other party and the Arjuna was that Arjuna had transcendental knowledge and they did not. That's what made the difference. So only by the help of transcendental knowledge and detachment we can come out of this material world. But how to get this transcendental knowledge and detachment? Attachment is easy. Detachment is little difficult. If I tell someone, please get detached from the villa of 3.5 crores in Prestige Lakeside Habitat, which you just purchased, how will you do that? It's very difficult. If you have, let's say, a bad habit, let's say if you smoke, and if we keep telling you you have to get detached from this habit, how will you do that? It requires a lot of spiritual energy. It's not possible in most of the cases also. People give up. The easy path is just to practice bhakti. Because the two byproducts of bhakti are jnana and vairagya. Simply if you chant Hare Krishna with love and attention, in a focused way, in a routine way, if you associate with the devotees of the Lord, and if your mind dwells in the Shastra or the scriptures as much as it is possible, and most importantly, if you hear a lot. The more you hear, the more fixed up you become. If you hear one lecture of Srila Prabhupada every day, whether you understand it, whether you don't understand it, simply that sound vibration, if it goes inside your heart, that will give nourishment to the Bhakti Lata Beej which is there in your heart. And if you can do this, then all the imports of the entire Vedic knowledge will be revealed to you in your heart by Krishna, even without reading them.
Where it is available?
Yeah.
In YouTube?
I thought you were asking about the Krishna. I'll start giving lectures on a daily basis. Prabhupada lectures. It's good if you can hear it. But the only way in which I will be encouraged to give lectures if someone hears and shares some points. If I keep posting and nobody cares, nobody comments on it, discusses it, then I don't get a motivation to do that. So what I'm trying to say is that the more, you please write this in bold. Take an entire page to write this. The more you hear, the more fixed up you become. Hear what? Not Madonna. Srila Prabhupada. Have you heard the songs, lyrics of the songs of Madonna? At one point of time I used to follow. All crazy lyrics, makes no sense only. Instead, if you go to Pandharpur and hear the lyrics written by Tukaram Maharaj, so much sense is there. All the abhangas which this great saintly person has written, they are stunning. Stunning. The saint Tukaram or the Acharyas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is God himself, but let's take example of Acharyas, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya. So many, these they have written great devotional feelings, devotional ecstasies. The purports of Srila Prabhupada in his books, these are devotional ecstasies. If somebody just understands them or gives a lifetime worth understanding it, that is the success. These days we fear whenever we see small children, parents come and tell that our children are exposed in a very, very wrong way these days. They have the internet, they have the wrong educational system. Parents do not discuss proper subject matters with their children in the right time. Therefore, they get that information from the wrong places in the wrong way, and that spoils them for a lifetime. The best way to expose your children to everything in this whole universe is to just give them Srimad Bhagavatam. Whatever you can think of, starting from the Supreme Personality of Godhead to adultery, everything is mentioned in a good way in Srimad Bhagavatam. Simply if we gift ourselves a set of Srimad Bhagavatam and let our children read it, there is nothing more which we will need in our lifetime. If your child or if we read Srimad Bhagavatam, then we will be able to understand everything which is happening on this planet and also in the other planets, and we will know how to safeguard ourselves from it also. There will be no surprise for us because we will know it. Srimad Bhagavatam is complete knowledge. If anyone wants knowledge, just read Srimad Bhagavatam. But first finish Bhagavad Gita. At least 2 times. Otherwise it makes no sense. So one good goal for a lifetime can be, I have to chant 16 rounds, read the books of Srila Prabhupada, take initiation. At least this should be the goal of our lives. At least, somehow by Krishna's mercy I got good education, I'm able to read. Let me read the books of Srila Prabhupada instead of reading horrible things. The newspaper is the best example of mundane discussion, which Brahma is criticizing. I am not criticizing. Brahma is criticized in Srimad Bhagavatam that unfortunate are those people who do not discuss about the topics of Vaikuntha and waste their time in mundane discussions. You have a right to be informed what is happening somewhere, but that's okay. But why do you want to read 46 pages of newspaper every day? Rather just come to know the headlines and read 46 pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. What difference does it make whether you read the newspaper or you didn't read the newspaper anyways? There was a time when people did not have newspapers and their happiness quotient was much better. So the best way to deal with this material world is to come out of it using knowledge and detachment. Knowledge is very difficult to get. Detachment is also very difficult to practice. I'll give you one example of knowledge. I heard this in a lecture of Srila Prabhupada. He was telling that in the Radha Damodar Mandir, there used to be an old lady, widow. She was not literate. In Vrindavan, there is a culture when the husband passes away, generally the women move into the temples and they stay. not Vrindavan, that was the culture of India in general. So Prabhupada would see that this woman would get up every day early in the morning, have bath, take a pot, go to the Yamuna, fill the water in that pot and bring it and give it to the pujari every day, with which the abhishek used to happen. Prabhupada told, simply by doing this one activity, that woman is going back to Godhead. Because this is bhakti. This is direct bhakti. She was not a great scholar of the Bhagavad Gita or the Bhagavatam, but because of this devotional service, the import of all Vedic knowledge was directly revealed to her in her heart. What will happen to someone if they read the Bhagavad Gita for the next 20 years, scrutinizingly, 42 verses every day? Tell me. They will only come to this conclusion that the purpose of life is to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. This is the highest realization. Whether you want to understand it like this or whether you want to understand it like this, it's up to you. Prema bhakti jahan hoite, avidya vinasha jaite, vede gaye jaha racharito. That's what is said. Wherever there is prema bhakti, avidya will get eternally destroyed. And that is only possible by the mercy of a spiritual master, a bona fide spiritual master. Otherwise, it's not possible. Nobody can excel, or there's no question of excelling. Nobody can progress in their spiritual life without the mercy of their spiritual masters. It's not possible. Still, there are some useless people who say that there's no need of a spiritual master. Take this Bhagavad Gita, go read it, become happy in life. That's how all these criminal editions of Bhagavad Gita have come in the market. There are many stupid editions of Bhagavad Gita which have got nothing to do with Bhagavad Gita. That's the problem. They don't know that they are, a blind man is leading other blind men. That's the problem. So we have to cut down this tree of illusion and then we have to surrender to the Lord. Those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal and who are done with the material lust, who are freed from dualities of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain the eternal kingdom. This is a very high qualification. This is complete detachment from the material world. This detachment comes just like that in the heart of a person who has decided that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I have to chant His holy names, I have to serve His devotees. That's all. Anybody who practices bhakti yoga or who practices devotional service, knowledge and detachment will come as byproducts, even without looking for it. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada says that to test how advanced you have become in your devotional service, just see how much distasteful have you become towards this material world. If we still have a lot of materialistic desires and propensities to enjoy in this material world, that means there is some problem in our Krishna consciousness. Because this pleasure in this material world is nothing. If you really want to know pleasure, go to the spiritual world. Then you will come to know what is happiness. So why to waste time in this place? So unless we cut this tree of this material world, let me add one more point. You can only cut down this tree with the sword of knowledge and detachment. And this sword is what? Bhakti. Don't try to figure out where this tree starts and where this tree ends. You will be bewildered. This is the problem with our leaders of the society and leaders of the country. They are trying to adjust the material nature, thinking that this will solve the problems of the people. They are thinking economic development will solve the problems of the people. They are thinking that various plans will solve the problems of the people. They are thinking giving such and such kind of sense gratification will solve the problems of the people. They don't know that the root cause of the problem is ignorance of the actual self, and only when that is addressed can someone become happy. Okay, so I would like to end with one prayer which Shukdev Goswami made. When Shukdev Goswami was cursed that he will die in the next 7 days, then he assembled and then he retired from his kingly affairs and he went to the banks of river Ganges and he settled there with a desire to find out what should be done in these last 7 days. And all the saints of from all over the world, they had assembled there because he was the king of the planet. And at that time, King Parikshit Maharaj made a prayer. So that is this prayer here. The prayer says, again offering obeisances unto all you Brahmanas, I pray that if I should again take my birth in the material world, I will have complete attachment to the unlimited Lord Krishna, association of his devotees, and friendly relations with all living beings. So this is the value of bhakti. That a person doesn't even care whether he gets liberation or not. All he wants is a facility where he can practice devotion lifetime after lifetime in the association of his devotees. And the third point which he makes, friendly relations with all living entities, according to me that is a byproduct, because one who loves Krishna loves the small ant also, loves the plant also, loves the coconut tree also, loves everything around. And one who does not love Krishna, they will take photos with different dogs, post it on their wallpapers, and they will eat a chicken for their dinner. Yeah, that's all. There are so many people associated with so many organizations who supposedly save animals. But you look into their personal life, they will say, oh, we are dog lovers. We love dogs, we save dogs, we work for the street dogs. But what do you eat? Therefore, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a prediction that very soon people will become cannibals. There is already a black market existing in US where human flesh is being already sold. All the problems exist because of avidya. Until unless you address this problem, that I am a servant of the Lord and I am meant to serve the Lord, I belong to Krishna. And we have to understand that, and we should not be very proud also. Sometimes devotees, they become very proud. Oh, I am chanting 4 rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and I am reading 30 minutes every day. I am a great person. Please understand. This will help us in our japa to become humble. Please understand this point that there are unlimited billions, trillions, zillions of devotees or servants which Krishna has who are serving in their best possible capacity. I'm not even a devotee right now, I'm a practicing devotee. Imagine how insignificant I am. But see the greatness of Krishna. Every small step which I take in Krishna consciousness, that supreme personality of Godhead who is being served by zillions and I don't even know the count, so many pure devotees, that person comes down to reciprocate with me, an insignificant, sinful, wicked soul. This is our actual situation. So we should always think like this. Never become proud. We are in a very, very abominable condition right now. Still, that Supreme Personality of Godhead comes to reciprocate with us. Imagine what kind of a leader he is, or what kind of a master he is. So many leadership sessions or leadership sutras can simply be derived. You go to the Bhagavad Gita or go to the Bhagavatam, take any place where the Lord is having a discussion or having a talk or a conversation with someone, at least 10-15 principles of leadership sutras you can derive from it. He's that kind of a lover, he's that kind of a person. You cannot even imagine. Suppose if you are already being served by 50 very devoted people and there is one traitor, if he is trying to do something, why will you care? He has pure devotees like Tukaram serving him in the spiritual world. Why does he have to care for someone like me, who is not even a pure devotee? So that is the greatness of our Lord, and that is the greatness of the association of the devotees. We have to associate with the devotees. If somebody wants to know whether Krishna is pleased with me or not, just see if you have the facility of association of devotees in your life or not. If it is, that means Krishna is pleased with you. If it is not, that means Krishna is not pleased with you. Some people don't value the association of devotees. They do offenses, they commit offenses against the devotees. So Krishna throws them out of devotee association. So what I'm trying to say is, you people have developed some faith in Krishna consciousness. So the next step is to develop an attachment to the association of devotees or to the devotees in general. Never miss your Gita sessions. Always come. Because this is the only ray of hope which we have. I also come here to take your association because it helps me in my spiritual life. It reminds me of so many fundamentals. When I come here and when I try to discuss these points, it is not that I have been given a task to do. No, this is for my purification. So you are helping me in my spiritual life and I am trying to assist you in your spiritual life. In this way, we are all trying to move one step closer to Krishna. And his speciality is that if we take one step, that Supreme Lover takes 1,000 steps. So that is his speciality, and this is only possible in the association of devotees. So if in level 2 of Gita Course, if the only thing which you remember, that I have to somehow or the other always keep associating with the devotees, if only this much you remember, my job as a teacher is successful. Forget all the notes, throw it, no problem. But if you can digest this point, that I cannot function without the association of devotees, that is the culture which we are trying to create. Because that is the culture of the spiritual world. And until unless you practice here, you'll be a misfit there. If at all we go there. And we can only go there by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you very much for very patient listening to this class. I'm very happy for your attention which you give. I'll be more happy if someone can publish these notes which you are taking in the group and let more and more people add it. It need not be a complete set. If you have noted 3 points of that, let someone more add to it. This will help those people who are not being able to make it to the sessions. And this will also create a culture of discussion in our group.